Good morning, students. Welcome to History class. We are reading Chapter 8, The Crusades. This is part 3 and the last part of this lesson. In today's class, we will read Impact of the Crusades. Now, the Crusades have become one of the defining events of the Middle Ages in Europe and the Middle East. The campaigns brought significant consequences wherever they occurred, but also pushed changes within the states that organized and fought them. Even when the Crusades had ended, their influence continued through literature and other cultural means. The European Christians could not attain victory in the Crusades. They failed to recover Palestine, that is, their holy land, from the Turkish Muslims. But the Crusades had a profound influence on the society, civilization, culture, economy of Europe. Let us look into it in detail. Crusades brought an end to feudalism. You already know that before Crusades, feudal lords were very powerful. But these Crusades indirectly helped to bring an end to feudalism, which had been in fashion for a pretty long time before this. The power of the royal houses of Europe and the centralization of government increased thanks to an increase in tax and acquisition of wealth in the Middle East and the imposition of tariffs on trades. The death of many nobles during Crusades and the fact that many mortgaged their lands to the crown in order to pay for their campaigns and those of their followers also increased royal power. There was a decline in the system of feudalism too, as many nobles sold their lands to fund their troubles, freeing their serfs in the process. So, what is that? Many of the nobles were compelled to sell much of their landed property in order to bear the expenditure of the Crusades. Many barons even could not return from the Crusades. Thus, the monarchs got rid of the turbulent feudal lords and again became powerful. So, the feudalism that prevailed before Crusades came to an end as feudal lords lost their powers. And in return, what happened? Kings or monarchs became powerful again, and the serfs, that is, the peasants who were suffering in this system of feudalism, became free. Next important effect or impact of Crusades was that it increased the geographical knowledge of the Europeans. In Crusades, what happened? These Europeans, they started visiting to these Middle East countries to for these campaigns or the wars, and while doing so, these crusaders, the people who used to go for this fight, they used to draw the maps, the route they used to take, they used to draw it. And in this way, various types of maps and charts appeared during these crusades, which helped these Europeans in the later stages when they took voyages or expeditions. The next important impact of crusades were that these Europeans came in contact with Arab culture, custom and practices. Western aristocrats developed a taste for Eastern luxuries, and Western scholars began to embrace a philosophical tradition which had begun with the Greeks and had flourished under Islam. These impressions from the East would be instrumental in shaping the civilization of the West. What they started to do? The West, that is the Europeans, from the time of the Crusades, they started learning the courtesies and fine civilized qualities of social conduct from the East. The arts and science of the Arab world spread in Europe. Besides, the Europeans learned the use of the food and drugs from the Arabians. Quite a number of English words of Arabic origin like bazaar, sugar, zero, etc. date from the Crusades. So you see, due to Crusades, what happened? Europeans became influenced by the Arabic culture. They started to learn their language, they started to eat the food Arabs used to eat, and they took up their social conducts. That is how they used to behave. Also, in the field of art and science, Arab had an influence on Europeans. Next and rather most important effect of Crusades was the development of trade and commerce. The trade of ideas and luxuries with the East had already been underway for a century or two before the Crusades had begun. And the Crusades acquainted the European nobles with luxurious life of the East. What happened due to this? This brought about a change in the Europeans' tastes, as they now learned the use of valuable clothes, perfumes, gems, and pearls. These were in hot demand in European countries. These valuable clothes, perfumes, gems, pearls, this thing were in very much demand in European countries. And to meet that demand, these Europeans used to import those things from Arab. And this led to the spread of trade. All the European cities in medieval times were located either on sea coast or on the trade routes, wherefrom communications with other places were easy. In Italy, for instance, Venice and Genoa were seaports, while Milan and Pisa stood on trade routes. Thus, a large number of cities which were either seaports or center of trade grew up in England, Holland, France, Germany, and Russia. So what we can see over here, that trade and commerce flourished all over the Europe due to the Crusades. Why? Because now Europeans became interested in the things of East, like this perfumes, gems, pearls, or valuable clothes, and they started using those things. And to meet their demand, the European, they started bringing or importing those things from Eastern countries. And in this way, the trade developed. The cities of Italy gained most because of their location. As you can see that Venice and Genoa were located were the seaports, and they were located near the sea, so it was easy to bring or to import goods through seaports, whereas Milan and Pisa were in the trade routes. That's why all the cities of Italy, they became the center of this trade. Besides the prosperous Italian cities, many new trade centers and towns also sprang up in Italy. And we will see in the later chapters that how, due to Crusades, this new town started developing to meet the demand or the trading need of the country. So, this was all about this chapter. Now, you should read the chapter, mainly section 8.4.4 to 8.6, and after that you have to do exercise A1, A2 and A3 in your book. If you have any problem understanding this chapter, you can send your query in the given mail ID. Thank you.